Okay, so let me open this one, and then we're all ready to go. I think that
All right.
background music is maybe a little bit loud. Don't want it overpowering anything. So it's called background music. Okay.
Oh yeah, just out of curiosity, did you just wake up?
No, like half an hour ago.
Oh really? Okay, I mean, close enough.
Got a shower in, you know.
Gotcha. Because I was gonna say like I don't usually like see people when they just woke up,
Mm-hmm.
like because usually I get to school like pretty late, but you can kind of tell when like I don't know if it's something about the facial expression or something
Uh-huh.
like that, but like I feel like you can kind of tell when someone like that expression when you just got up.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. Usually my voice is a little bit deeper too in the morning. It's like
yeah, I know what you mean.
it's a little bit raspy, you know. But yeah. So what do we have here today? We have what looks like an Adele,
Yes,
and what
I am.
level are we at?
I'm 221 right now. Like on my like my stats page, I think it says 220, but I did end up leveling up.
Okay, 221.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see. All right, and like, is it general for like background? Or are you doing like one PC setup, two PC setup?
I am doing a one PC setup, but like I need to be I honestly need to be a little bit convinced like if doing a two PC setup is worth it, like knowing that like Kishin got nerfed and all that shit, or
Mm-hmm.
like uptime or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
you could
that's
help
true.
inform me because I do have a
Um.
laptop.
Okay. Yeah. So the value of Kishin and keeping that up is a bit trickier now. In the ideal situation, you can definitely keep it higher than 50% uptime. Maybe not exactly 100 if you're like kind of like AFKing on that laptop. Like even if it's right next to you, obviously you can't be constantly pressing all the buttons. The main value comes in if you're actively playing, grinding more than those 15 sessions of 2 hours when you can get totems. Because
Yep.
then outside of that time, it's just a pure win, basically. The only downside is getting your character up to the level and up to the area where you're at, but it is a Kanna, so even leveling it by itself, considering the Terra burn and everything, is very quick. And just always having it with you, and even if Kishin is only 50% uptime, then even during that 50%, your rates will be way better.
Gotcha.
That's without if you do doing anything. So there's an easy way, as long as you got enough arcane power, by just stripping the Kanna from everything except for arcane power in your weapon. Or arcane symbols, I should say, and then just using Kishin in one area, and then moving the Kanna to another area. Maybe by letting it fall into a river and then teleporting, like that happens a lot in Arcana, for example. And then having Circle of Suppression on, and then just having that cause like the Yosuzume to fly around, that triggers the Night Ghost Guide, and that'll typically get your uptime for Kishin pretty much to like 75 to 85%. So it's definitely not definitely not that flat 50%. That would require you to move the Kanna a little bit every now and then. But I would say that's better than going the whole way without your totems. So yeah, it would depend on how much you're playing. I would say it definitely has a lot of value to just help you with Kishin in leveling, like your Legion, for example, if there's still a lot of work there. Because you don't want to dedicate your totems to your Legion if you're still trying to, grind it out on your main, basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing though, because like I don't know if you like scroll down and all, but I started playing like what like a little more than a month ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm literally like just like developing. I've just been like starting my links and kind of doing.
Yeah, I saw that your Legion was still pretty fresh.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So um, so I guess in the thing about the secondary con or whatever is
Mm-hmm.
that like leveling up like and getting it to Arcana seems like that seems pretty hard, like pretty hard, like doable but pretty hard. But I guess like for the sake for now, at least for now, for the sake of leveling up my links faster, like to get the Kishin up, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem too bad of an idea. I could definitely consider it.
Yeah, I would at least try to get it to 200 because with Terrorburn, that's literally like one day's work.
Yeah.
Because the class is just so ridiculously strong by itself, and because it has access to Kishin, so you don't need to like work on like totems and reward points and that kind of stuff to get it started. So that's always a good buff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, it might be a bit slow. You'll have the temporary CRA gear, of course, but yeah, you'll be a bit slow in the beginning, even playing on that character, because you'll You know, if you get it to 2.5 or 2.10, you do get those extra nodes that can help. But mainly you have an Adele now that you can use it to drag it through Vanishing Journey dailies every day. And with that, your arcane power is going to grow very quickly. And, you know, you can do constant every day for the kill quest. You can just, you know, you can roll the kill quests and that kind of stuff. And the other thing is you can just drag it through the, like, what's the other PQ called again? Urda Spectrum, right?
Yeah, Urda, yeah.
And the Kishin will also make the monster spawn faster and everything. Will make that go faster even for your main as well. So it is mutually beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah,
right, I'm starting to get sold.
Yeah, I would highly advise it because I think the main value, and we talked about that during yesterday's gear progression as well. I don't know if you saw that, but I think one of the main values of doing it is also that it basically allows you to completely bypass having a dedicated farmer on your main account. Depending on how far you want to go, of course, but I think most characters, by just getting a combination of Meso and drop rate gear on your accessories and just focusing on the hybrid gear for damage and on your nodes, arcane power, all of that stuff, the combination will allow you to not lose any kill speed and at the same time make way more money while you're training and be able to extend that past the totems once you have access to the Kishin. And they'll basically make it so that you don't have to make like a huge investment into a dedicated farming character. Not really, at least. Unless you want to go like past 255 or something, you want to go into Limina, then your Kanna might need to also be 255, which we rather steep, or you stick to just 30 hours a week. At that point, you could also say like, well, I have another character that I also want to play, and then you just Kishin that one, and then, you know, you make money from that character training, for example. And then you can kind of like double dip in using your totems on your main for like 30 hours a month, and then you have like a side main or like a secondary character that you're also playing a lot, and then that one just can take advantage of the Kishin, and then you have 2 incomes there, something like that.
Okay. So just generally, like the second account, Kanna just like outweighs the value of like having a main account one for farming and stuff. Even if like I'm not getting benefits from like I don't know, like the Legion, for example, stuff like that.
So this is, if you like graph this, there's probably like 2 break-even points, right? It's probably like a kind of a curve, like a logarithmic curve downward and and like a hockey stick upwards, where they like overlap. Where in the beginning, one is way better, and then the other one gets maybe a little bit better, and then it switches again. Because it's like
For which.
Yeah, it's like way in the beginning, just playing only on your main character is way better, right? Because if you don't have the amount of time to take the advantage of a secondary farming character or like a farming character, then all your money is just being sunk into something that you'll never even get the interest out of, right? You're making an investment, but there's no interest coming back because you don't have the hours to put into it. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, if you have enough time, then you'll be enough interest coming back, and you know you'll like surpass it. So that's kind of like a linear curve, I guess. And then the other one is if you're just playing all by yourself. Well, if you have Kishin, hang on, let me see if my brain can make these things visually happen.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So with Kanna in the beginning, it jump starts faster, and then in the end, depending on which class it is, and depending on your rates, and depending if you can take your Kanna all the way with you, that kind of stuff, then it might start dropping off, and then the farming Kanna eventually might like overtake it again. But it'll depend on whether you back it up with another character, whether you're like selling crystals on a bunch of characters every week to kind of like make up for the loss in profits, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I would say both of the ways are doable, but some people just don't want to sit like in one map countless hours to just, you know, hold down 2 buttons and make like a lot of money, but be that like at that same time make no experience on their main whatsoever. And other people have no problem getting both the 275 on a main and having a dedicated farmer that make for several hours a week. It just depends on how much you play, basically.
Okay. I think the only issue that like I might have is like on the Kanna account, like am I gonna have to like also work on like links and like my Legion on stuff on that account too, or is it usually just a Kanna that
I think it's people usually start with just a Kanna. I think I did when there was like a mega burn. I mega burned a like a Mercedes, and I think a Phantom, but that's about it. I have like a few low-level characters. For example, if you finish the Terror Burn now, you get a box with a Mega Burn coupon, so you could use that for a Mercedes, for example. And then if you have like the level 2 Mercedes link, that's probably good enough.
Okay. So you just need minimal investment.
Yeah, pretty minimal. Yeah, yeah. 'Cause the main value is just being able to bring it with you and having it have Kishin. Now, back in the time, I leeched it most of the time, so it didn't need to be that strong. And then after that, leeching kind of changed because I like Maple Boomer, I guess, like the way old system. But now, trading as the Kanna is probably better, even if you don't have those links, because of how Kanna got reworked and how much stronger it is now.
Okay.
And because of fifth job and everything, because back when I did it, fifth job wasn't even really a thing, and yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll definitely put that on the what's it called, the radar then.
on the to-do list.
Yep. Sure.
All right.
It get a little overwhelming though, but yeah, we get there.
Can be in the beginning, but I think it'll be crazy how quickly you get it started and how quickly the Kanna just levels by just dragging it through the dailies and everything. Yeah, even if you just get to 200, it'll be like 205, 210 in no time, and then you can already go into choo-choo. Yeah. I think the main benefit will be like when there are like level up potions in a separate shop. You know, it's on a different account, so you can buy them there as well. You could AFK in the store, for example, during these types of events and just buy those level up potions. You could get coins or like those stamps just from AFKing and maxing out. Then those stamps can give you like an experience coupon, and they just play it like half an hour a day. Sometimes there's boxes with like triple experience coupons, and then you just then you spend some time on the character. Otherwise, you just drag it through the content and like slowly gain experience.
Okay. So like this isn't something I'd just be doing like immediately, like getting it up to where my just let it sit for a little bit.
That could. So if you're like content with the amount of totems you have now, the upside to doing it immediately would be that you can like carry them over equally, and then the downside would be like if you keep committing more to the Adele now, the gap is only going to get wider and it's only going to take longer before you can take advantage of it. So if you feel that the main value of the Kanna is just to Kishin for Legion, then you can just leave it 200 and slowly through the dailies. The benefit from that will be that you will build up a lot of arcane power without really leveling a lot. So if you train it by itself after a while having a lot of arcane power, you'll just be really strong.
Okay.
And then you won't really have as much time. Then you won't have to like rely on node stones, but you can just rely on all the arcane power you're getting.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what is the goal with your character right now?
So right now, like I guess I have a short-term and like a sort of long-term goal. So right now I just want to like solo like all the CRA bosses. Like, cause I think I am in a situation like I have friends tell me this stuff. It's just for my own like enjoyment and like self of satisfaction. I want to like do all the CRA stuff solo. And then I guess like after that I just naturally progress and I want to be able to eventually solo Lotus. Yeah.
Lotus and Damien solo. That's like the okay.
And the thing is, like right now, I can do Queen and Wanbon, but I struggle with like I kind of tickle what's it called Vellum. Pierre's a little bit hard.
Yeah, so Pierre, because all of your skills are basically multi-target, so you're healing the other guy a lot, right?
Yeah.
So
like also the split thing's a little cancel. Like I didn't fully learn that mechanic, so like if I like spent a little more time learning it and trying to like get it down pat, I could probably do it. I want to say.
I have I did make a like kind of like a video on dealing with a split Pierre. I don't know if you checked that one out.
I have not.
I basically just draw it in paint, but I go like over all the scenarios. Like let's say he's here, like one clown's here, one clown's there, and you have this hat. What do you do in this situation? Let's say they're switched around and you have the same hat. What do you do in that situation? Let's say your hat is different, right? There's like 4 situations, right? If there's split Pierre and you're standing on one side and you have one color hat, there's a bunch of things that you can do. And what if this guy doesn't teleport? What if this guy immediately teleports? What if you get sealed? That kind of stuff. So maybe that will help you. Maybe in some situations you could be like, oh, okay, in this situation I just do this, or in this situation I just chill and rebuff, like that kind of stuff. I think it's under !CPR, I think. Let me check.
Yeah, I think you had like a page or whatever that just showed all your chat. I think I saw like stuff for CRA. I think I know where to find it.
Yeah,
Or
CRA
using?
specifically is yeah, I put it in the chat right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, for CRA specifically, I just have videos of me doing the bosses, but every character is just a little bit different, right? Every character has their own benefits and their downsides. Like, I could show myself doing Chaos Queen on my DA, for example, and everyone would be like, well, I don't learn anything from this. This guy literally just face tanks all of it. Takes no damage, like, just the breath does no damage. The swipe actually is the scariest attack, because that deals like
DOT?
200... It's like 300k damage or something. Yeah, the DOT does absolutely nothing. It just doesn't even tickle, right? Because it's a flat amount, just like the breath, so that doesn't do anything.
Oh, I
But
didn't
like
know
the
that.
swipe does like 2 swipes of 20%, I think. So it's like 40% HP. So that's like 200,000 HP. But the breath is only 80,000. You have 500,000. So it's like, yeah, you just heal through it, right? All your attacks have lifesteal as well. So you constantly just, even if the ticks, what is the highest that the ticks can hit? Is like 12k, 18k or something? Yeah, that's like
I haven't tested myself.
that's like 1/30th of my HP, and I heal that back with every attack. So, right. So every single class it's definitely multi-targeting. In Pierre is probably one of the harder things to do. The main thing why you haven't been able to kill Vellum yet is your IED. I can already tell it's way too low. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a natural barrier, and you have to know that Vellum's ID is only at 200%. Well, his PDR is only at 200%, so his armor basically, and it used to be at 300%. So they already brought down how much of a barrier to entry he has. But even despite that, he's still
Pretty hard to get into.
yeah, it's still tricky. So you're ignoring about 2/3, a little bit more because of the visual and functional distinction, but you're ignoring about 2/3 of his defense. So he still has, let's say a third is like 70%-ish. So he's probably still reducing your damage by like 60+%. So only like 35 to 40% of your damage is actually getting through. So that's a pretty big cut, right? Basically cutting your damage in 3.
Speaking on the IED, can you like briefly like break down the distinction between the functional and visual? Because I've never heard you explain.
Yeah, we can
Or
go into that a bit. So IED is calculated multiplicatively, which means that all of the sources individually are multiplied with what you already not with what you already have, but they're added as a portion of the missing IED basically. So let's say that you have 80% and you add a line of 10%. That means you add 10% of the 20% that you're missing to hit the 100%. So 10% of 20% is 2%. So you go from 80 to 82. Basically how it works. And some of the ID is like thrown into one chunk. Like for example, in your hyperstat, it's not every level is 3%, so it's not like a 3% then a 3%, but it gets thrown into one chunk of up to like let's say 30 or 27% in your example, right? Because you have it at level 9, and then it's treated as one stack of 27. But for example, let's say you had a weapon with a line of 30% and a line of 30%, that wouldn't go together as a line of 60, but that would be two separate 30% lines. So because of how that works, singular large chunks of IED are way more important than a lot of small chunks, right? If you could choose between two sources of 20% or one of 40%, you would always go for the one of 40%. Because the second line of 20%, when it gets calculated on a lower missing rate to 100%, and therefore it's less effective than if you have the 40% calculating in one go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So and also of course because one line of 40% would mean that only one line of stuff is being used and two lines of 20%, which means that one line is also not being utilized, right? That could be attack or it could be.
One more time?
So if you in general how the percentages work, that's most important in this case, but on top of that, if you had one line of 40% or two lines of 20%, in the one case you only have one line dedicated to the ID and it's already better. And in the other case, you have two lines dedicated where that second line could be something else in the first scenario, right? That also gives you damage. Yeah. So it's because of that, it's even more valuable to have those big sources. So with all of that said, there's a bunch of sources of IED. And so it depends on how much PDR the boss has. So PDR is like physical damage reduction. And that's like the armor, and the ignore defense is basically the penetration that penetrates the armor. So let's say you have, for most bosses in the beginning, their armor is sub 100%. It's usually like 60% or something. And if you have 60% IED, you ignore 60% of the armor. So like 36% of the 60% is gone. So only 24% damage is reduced. So you still deal 76% of your damage, which is not that noticeable in the beginning, especially not with Adele. You just power through everything. You're super strong, right? So nothing really looks like it's holding you back at all. Once the bosses have like 200%, like with Vellum, and then beyond, they go up to 300%. Then it gets a little bit more dicey, because then let's say you have 70%, right? They have 200% armor. You ignore 70% of their 200%, so you ignore 140. So it's still 60% armor, and that's a final damage reduction. So you only deal 40% of your final damage at that point.
Yeah.
If they had 300% and you're trying to attack them with 70%, you ignore 210% of their damage, leaving 90%. You only deal 10% of your final damage.
Okay.
So
Right,
in that way, yeah, IED feels kind of... A lot of the sources of damage in this game at this point are kind of invisible in the way that they don't show up in your damage range, right? Your boss damage only shows up when you're fighting actual bosses. Your final damage does get multiplied, but your critical rate, your critical damage, your ignore defense, those don't really show up in your damage range, so you kind of just have to know how those systems work to understand the value that they have. And IED is definitely one of those that kind of get overlooked until you can't overlook it anymore, and that's typically when you start trying to do C-Vel and you're like, why am I just tickling this guy? Yeah.
Yep.
Some classes have kits that just have a lot of IED in them, or skills that have 100% IED, and then you can kind of bypass the whole requirement for this if you rely on those skills a lot. But for the classes that don't, you have to dedicate some resources to IED. Especially if you want to do the solo progress. So that's probably what we're going to be looking at a lot for you, to make sure that one of the main things just for new characters is to getting your critical rate and your IED situated. Mainly critical rate so that you can actually have your critical damage be applying, and IED so that you can actually go past the bosses that you actually want to get past, basically. Does IED make sense?
Yeah. But still on that topic of IED, how does like the IED on my character work with like IED debuffs, like for example, like with the mage?
Oh yeah. So you mentioned the visual and functional distinction. So visual is the IED that's always active, and no matter what hit you do on no matter what boss, that IED will be applied. That's what the game can calculate. It's like, okay, these are the sources that we can control for. But then there are also on-hit effects. So for example, certain skills can have additional IED benefits sometimes from passive hyperstats, and sometimes from having your boost nodes being over level 40. But because that will only apply when that specific skill hits something, it can't be shown in your stat window, but it will always apply whenever you hit something. And in the same way, a boss debuff will... that's also an on-hit effect, so it'll only apply when you hit the boss. But your stat window isn't going to say like, well, even if you're in the boss room with only that boss in there, and the only thing you can hit is that boss, and the boss is debuffed, your stat window still won't say like, oh, we'll just count that on your on your visual IED because of this situation. They stop there. So that's why it's important to know at a certain point and to calculate what your functional IED is by applying all of the sources that you know you have 100% uptime over, and that will, or at least that you have 100% uptime during the moments of burst when you're doing your chunk of your damage, so that you roughly know like, okay, what is my IED at? And that'll help you find your balance, because like I mentioned before, there's a bunch of stuff that can be invisible to your range. But a lot of the items that give you that IED, which is mostly like your weapon, your secondary, and your emblem, right? These also have the sources of giving you percentage attack and some even percentage boss damage, so not the emblem there, but and these are also big sources of damage. So you want to know what the correct balance is between these lines to make sure, okay, how much damage am I doing and how much of that am I getting through? If you go too high on the ignore defense, then all your damage goes through, but it's not that much damage. If you go too hard on the damage and no IED, then you have a lot of damage, but it doesn't go through. So there's like there's a balance there that you want to match out, and where that balance is depends on how much IED you already have, how much damage you already have, and how much percentage attack you already have. And for every class, it's going to be a little bit different. And what is going to have a lot of effect on that is how big your legion is and what link skills you have. But also what your hyperstat distribution is, of course. Like that's where a lot of those sources come from. And then later, your legion grid as well.
Yeah. that's like a big thing that like made me wanna like start doing my Legion and stuff
Mm-hmm.
now. Because I actually do you know at what point you can start like investing in IED like in putting that stuff on your grid, like the humble Legion
In your Legion or?
on your Legion, yeah. Like not through the character bonuses, but like on the grid itself, like when it starts
Yeah,
showing.
grid bonus. Yeah, so yeah, I usually use the terms member bonus, grid bonus, because that's like what it says in the game. Yeah, so for the grid bonus, well, like we talked about before, the big sources are just better than the small sources. I would definitely not put in IED if you just have one hex available, right? Because it's only 6%. That's like that's not really gonna make
Oh,
a
yeah, it's pretty
difference.
negligible then. Yeah.
Yeah, but as soon with every hex, the grid also gets one bigger, right? So it's like 6, and then 7, and 8, and 9, etc., etc. So once you have 2, you already have a source of 13%. That's already considerable enough, I would say, to put an ID if you need it. And in the beginning, it could be a sense of that you have 2 setups, for example, and that one has ID and boss damage, and that the other one is more dedicated to critical rate and critical damage or something in the beginning, just to make your mobbing faster, for example.
Sure.
And then as you grow your Legion out, you want to put points into all of these things, right? These 4 are very, very important, but only as much as is required. So some of the things that you can rely on in the beginning a lot is, for example, the Phantom Link and the Beast Tamer Link. A lot of critical rate from there. That can get you to 100%. And then because of that, you can not put anything in your grid bonus for critical rate for quite a while. You just rely on critical rate for those. And in some situations might even allow you to take points out of your hyper stats of critical rate and make sure that the other ones are at 10. Not past 10 because that gets like really expensive, but like at 10. And you do have some ID, right, in your kit where you build those stacks.
Yeah, with the stack, but it's like up to 15%. Well, it's like 3 instances of 5%.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it adds. I don't know how the calculation.
Well, so if you see your stat window, right, one is completely statted and one is not, and so you gain the line of 15%, which makes it go up by 5%.
Oh, okay.
So if you math that out, it would be one stack. So the stacks stack together into one source of 15%. So you take 15% of the 33% you're missing, which would be 3.3 and half. So it would be like 4.9. Yeah, it would be like around 5%, right? 3.3.
You round it up and then okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that would be like roughly 5%. So this number is also rounded. That's also an important thing to know for your visual IED. You could be slightly below the percentage, or you could be quite a bit above the percentage, which when you're at 70 doesn't really matter. But if you're at like 93, it's important to know if you're at like 92.8 or if you're at 93.7 or something, and it's not rounding up visually. Because at that point, 1% starts making a lot of difference because you're fighting bosses that have 300% defense. So 1% more IED gives you 3% more final damage.
Yep.
Whereas, that might be 2 lines of attack to get 3% more final damage or something. So a lot of people get surprised in the end game how much more IED they're actually expected to stack. Because if you're really decked out with like a lot of boss damage and you have a lot of weapon attack and everything, sometimes like calculators will just tell you like visually you want to be at like 96 or something, and functionally like over 98% sometimes. Some people will be like, oh yeah, they have like this idea like, oh, 93 is good enough. Well, sure, because you don't have access to all of those other sources of damage yet. But once you have access to all of those other sources, you want those sources to be able to go through, so you need to keep stacking IED because it'll just be more beneficial than just getting like 90, 91 visual and then being like, oh, functionally I'll be at like around 93, and then just stacking more boss, attack. However, though, caveat there, familiars coming back next week, so those are going to be a huge thing. We're really going to have to see how prevalent are they going to be, how easy to achieve, unlocking badges if that's all fixed. Sources of IED definitely coming, but to which extent is it going to be accessible to you? So building up Legion while you're still like leveling and having fun with your main character and everything is probably the best thing to do right now. So you can have access to more link skills, which will allow you in different situations to have like a more ideal setup of what you want to do. Are you mobbing? You can use this list of link skills. Are you bossing? You can use this list, right?
Yep.
To give you that flexibility. But find a balance there. I'm already noticing that you probably don't feel as happy with like spending time away from your character and working on a bunch of rando characters that you're not going to play.
Oh, like in terms of like developing my Legion, like on my main account, like I basically view that as improving my character. So like that I have no problem doing.
Okay,
The
that's
main
good.
issue that I was taking was like with like starting the secondary account with the Kanna that like
Yeah,
is that was like the main thing.
I see. Yeah. Well, it'll be really fast. The Kanna levels like crazy. Yeah, that's like within a day. I don't know. Yesterday I did an Ice Lightning Mage. I got to. Of course, I have the links in the Legion and everything, but I did an Ice Lightning. It wasn't the Kanna. It's still pretty good mobber, but wouldn't say it's as good. But so in the 2-hour totem that I had, I got to 190 with like level up potions and stuff. And then I did another half hour with a bunch of with a bunch of Kannas from the community who came to Kishin me to get it to boost it to 200. But there are like some really good maps once you get to a certain point. And Kanna just has good map clear and can basically make any map good because it just makes monsters spawn in front of your face everywhere, right? So you don't have to go chase the monsters; they just come to you. That's a great thing. Yeah, but Links and Legion, especially in the beginning, percentage of your total strength are gonna represent a whole lot, basically.
Sure.
So we can go to Legion a little bit if you want to.
Sure. I'm not sure how much information I need because like it seems relatively straightforward, or I guess you could humble me.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen the ! Links command that I have.
Yes, I did look at it.
Okay, so you're using generally that order to level your stuff. Make sure that you have already created a Beast Tamer because they are limited creation only.
Did.
Yeah. Okay. Even if you just want to level it later, very important to have one of those.
Like burning it when the thing comes out because I saw that the Legion member bonus was like then now I know that like IED isn't additive, it's like multiple different ones. I'm not sure how much that I think was like 5% from the Legion bonus is like how much that is and like if it's worth using the burn on that character. But,
so I wouldn't say it's worth burning because I think it's pretty strong by itself. If you look at the characters you have, I would say burning like a Phantom, for example, would probably be way more valuable for you.
Okay.
Because Phantom and like Mechanic are classes that people generally just don't like, and just burning that will just help you get through that faster.
Like when you say don't like, is it because of the speed or like the play style? Because
A combination
really
of things. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I only care about the speed. Like
okay.
if it's fast, like I really. So.
Yeah, that generally really plays into the enjoyment because if people are like, oh, this character is like really shit. Because a lot of people think Adele is kind of like boring in the beginning as well, but it's so fast that people are like, well, it's boring, but like it's still super fast, so I guess we'll just tough it out. But if it's slow and the playstyle is a little dull, then like how did you find Demon Avenger? Because a lot of people think Demon Avenger is very boring too, because you're just jumping with Lunar Slash and that's kind of it.
DA felt a little like clunky, like in terms of the attack speed stuff. Like I felt like I wasn't attacking as fast as I'd like, or whatever. But maybe that was just me being bad.
Well, yeah, you're probably not using. I mean, you don't have like decent speed fusion. You don't have attack speed +1. You don't have your green pots. Probably, I don't think you have like full access to always having your Monster Park potions, right? So there's definitely.
I was using like the monster whenever I train this stuff I usually use the Monster Park stuff when I'm like going on the longer.
Okay, so you're on top of the Monster Park stuff.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, for your overall progression, that's gonna help a lot. Are you planning on taking your characters, even like the Legion characters you have, up to 140, or are you keeping them 120?
Yeah.
Or?
So like I'm like right now because as you see I only have now I have 7 links, but on the display was 6. I want to just like build up all my links first. And then and like every day I'm taking everyone through, so like I'm slowly leveling like that. And then after I get all my my guys to like to 120 like with all the links, then I'll like start like individually working on them like for what's left.
Okay, makes sense.
That's the plan at least.
Yeah, no, that's a good long-term plan for sure. Yeah, in general, so attack really good in the beginning. Little bit. You're probably at the switching point where I think putting everything in your main stat instead gets better I think than attack. You could try switching it out and see if your range goes up and down. It all depends on the balance of the attack and the stat and everything you have, right? But like after a while, the value of attack goes down comparative to stat because it's 5 stat per grid and only 1 attack per grid. That kind of thing. So once your Legion starts growing at 2k and 3k, that kind of thing. You have the big jumps where you can put a lot of extra characters in. So that's at 3k, 5.5, and at 8. That's when you can put 5 extra characters in instead of 1. And that's why you want to have like a lot of characters like ready to go, even if they're just level 60 or like level 120, so that as soon as you make that level up, boom, you can just get that big jump of putting in a lot of extra characters into your Legion. Yeah, so you're basically going to be working horizontally through the Legion once you get the grid bigger, because you're trying to connect critical rate and boss damage on one side with ignore defense and critical damage on the other side.
Yeah.
And you'll be mainly using low-level mage pieces and archer pieces, because those are just flat pieces, so you can use those to like make a line through the middle.
Like a 2x1?
Yeah, 2x1 and then 3x1 later once you get to 140. So it'll just stay like a flat, basically like the long piece in Tetris, right? And you can just like straddle those around the middle to just connect the both of the sides. That's basically what your Legion's going to start looking like. But mainly you just like keep piling on until you reach the next 1k, right? And then the grid gets bigger, and then you can like redo it. And then as you go, you just add one piece that goes into attack or one that goes into your main stat or whatever, if you unlock one extra. But then once you get to the 1000, like every 2 upgrades, then you can like redo it a little bit and like optimize it. And then maybe in the next optimization you have access to more links and more Legion, and you decide that you don't need anything in critical rate. You can have 2 presets. It's kind of up to you how to use that. I have like a huge Legion, so I have one preset for magical characters and one for non-magical characters, because it's so specific. There's a lot of characters that give you plus int, and you typically don't want those at all in your in all your other Legions, but only in your mage Legions. So I have like a mage Legion, non-mage Legion, and I depending on if I boss or if I train, I move like my whole 40 square hex of boss damage up to bonus experience instead. So I have like a line in critical rate that both connects the bottom right of bonus experience and the top left of boss damage, so that I can just move those pieces around if I do so choose, basically. But yeah, that's gonna be it in general, I think, for Legion. I was gonna say.
One more question on Legion. Though.
Yeah, go for it.
How do I increase my my coin? Like I know there's like a daily quest.
That's what I was gonna mention. Okay, thank you. That's the thing I was gonna talk about. So just leveling in general is the best way to gain more coins. So your raid power is your total of your individual character powers that you see in the bottom left where the cards are, right?
Yep. Like the one right above the IGN?
Yeah, right above the IGN, yeah. So if you add all of those, if you would add all of those numbers up of the characters that are, the 6 characters that are in your Legion, then it would come out to be this amount of Legion raid power. So that's the amount of damage that your characters do passively every second. And then for every 100 billion damage, you get 1 coin. So for now, it's going to take a long time just to get a single coin. So just leveling your characters and having more characters in there will make it go up a lot. The individual star force of the characters also is taken into account for their power. And that mainly starts counting for every interval of 60 or every multiple of 60 that their star force goes up. So it's like very, very early characters getting it to like 60 at least. That'll give them like a little bit of a boost. And if you have them at like 140 or you're going beyond, you'll have access to you'll have access to more accessories and stuff, because maybe in the beginning your character sheet is like, your equipment sheet is kind of empty, right? There's like there's like a weapon and then maybe a glove, an overall, and a hat, and maybe there's a shoe and a cape, but that's about
like
it.
Like an earring and like a there's like very little stuff.
Maybe like a 5-star earring you can get. I think you have the Kurbrook shoulder. I think you can pick up for like 5 extra, but yeah, even getting to 60 is almost like a struggle in the beginning. After a while, you just get access to more accessories and stuff, and then you want to try to go for like the 120. But I wouldn't really invest too much into star forcing at all. The best time to so you can like slowly work on some accessories. Try to get them all to have like the Zakum Iron Face, for example, which you'll probably get if you keep doing Zakum up to 140.
Yeah, I'm actually like most of them have at least one of the two.
Yeah, because the drop rate isn't very good. In the past, you would just have like a spider familiar, increase your drop rate, and you basically get them like every 2 runs and you'll be done. Yeah. Now it's not quite that simple. But yeah, like grouping up some accessories already, and then whenever there's a Star Force event for 1+1 up to 10 stars, so it just means that you get 2 stars whenever you succeed all the way up to 10. That way you can get things up to 12 stars. Like if you succeed at 10, it also goes right up to 12. That event will basically, it's not quite half price, but it's like almost half price to getting things Star Forced up. So if you prep having the accessories and then one of those events comes around, then you'll be able to like skyrocket your Star Force per character, and then overall your Legion raid power will see a nice increase.
Okay.
So that's what those events are really good for.
Okay. You mentioned that like right now, getting like the dealing damage to the raid boss or whatever, it's like it takes a while. So do you think it's still worth that at this point to like try to like, would you even call like coin capping in the Legion each day, like from the raid boss?
No, probably just go
Wouldn't
like
it
do your regular dailies on your Adele, and then once a day, and then when you're in there, make sure you finish or try to finish off the yellow part of the bar for the boss, right?
Sure.
Because that's the part that you can do damage over, and then if you do that, then just leave for the day and just focus on your character and focus on building your Legion. That's going to be more efficient. I wouldn't like go in there every hour or so to see if there's a new dragon and hitting that one. I don't think that'll do you much good. That'll give you like a few extra coins a day, but I think working more on the Legion and the links and on that basis so that you can generate that passive coin income is going to be better for you now. Because there's so much room to work with, right? Even if you just make a bunch of level 60s, the next 3, I guess, characters that are at least level 60 will all be able to be put in the Legion right now. And like their raid power just from having an extra level 60 character will be higher than like a Star Force increase on one of your level 120 or 130 characters.
That makes sense. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can get the Legion now. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and then links is kind of like connected with that, of course, right? Based on the list that we have, and if you're following that list, you'll see which ones just have more value for your account in general, and which ones have more value for your player. And then depending on if you're doing mobbing or bossing, as you have access to more links, you'll just be able to find a more ideal setup, which will connect with the kit of the character and with your current sources of damage that you already have. And then, that'll help you get that. Basically, it becomes like a big puzzle in the end, right? Big min-maxing puzzle to see what you need to get. All right. Do we need to check up on the V matrix, or do you think you have everything under control
maybe
there?
a little bit. Like, I think the worst. Like, I'm cringing at the thought of it, but some of the worst decisions I've ever made in this game are all from the V matrix. So, like, I guess just to give you an example.
Okay.
I thought I had a pretty clean understanding of the V matrix. So what I went and did was all my nodes, like all my skill nodes or tri nodes, whatever you call them, that had like one skill that I didn't want on it, I just dismantled all of them.
As long as okay,
Like,
okay, you went purely for tri-nodes or bust basically in the beginning.
Yeah, like, but at the time I didn't know that you could fuse like if they share the first like thing, first skill, then you could fuse. I didn't know that at the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I ended up wasting like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Just,
Well, if it's only 6 or 7, it's not that huge of a
it
deal.
wasn't that bad, but like, yeah.
It's just more silly. It just feels a little silly. Yeah, I get that. Okay, so what's your current setup? If you got, let's see. I think you've got.
Yeah, it's not really like optimized.
No, you got 3 blooms,
like,
2 cleaves.
Yep. I have 3 cleaves, like actually. Like I'm trying to like fix it up. And I wanted to push to 25 like sometime soon, to get the extra node, because like I have I have pretty good tri nodes. I think I'm like relatively lucky with that. But yeah, like I just don't have the space to put them all in right now.
So yeah, okay, few missions in general. In the beginning, you get a lot of your damage, a lot of final damage from boost nodes, right? They're like insanely good. And just adding 1 boost node is basically like leveling up your boost node if they have the same skills, right? So in the beginning, you might even want to put in like a bunch of boost nodes, level them all up a little bit, because that'll make your final damage in the end go up by a whole lot. Of course, the cost to doing that is you have limited slots, so you will have access to fewer skills, and those skills can be very useful. So one of the things that V-Matrix allows you to do as well is with decent skills, it allows you to basically boost all of your skills, kind of, right? If you increase your attack speed, basically all of your skills get a little bit better. If you boost your critical rate and critical damage, all of your skills get a little bit stronger. But what you want to ask yourself is like, is boosting these 2 main skills with boost nodes, is that more important than boosting everything with my attack speed and my sharp eyes? So in general, what I would say is that I think a decent boost, a decent skill node, right? Like for you, because your critical rate is rather low, so sharp eyes would be really nice, especially if you have this many slots, and decent speed infusion to just make your overall attack speed higher. I would say have more value than like a level 1 or a level 2 boost node. And it might be better to focus on just 2 boost nodes for now. Make sure that those 2 boost nodes have your skills that you use the most, and focus on leveling those, and on the side having more decent skills so that everything is boosted. So speed infusion is not just faster attack speed, it's also shorter animations, which makes it easier to boss with and to get out of the way of boss attacks, for example.
So like, do I need the attack speed stuff? Cause I remember looking at like what characters like need like extra attack speed or whatever, like depending on their kits and stuff. But I'm not exactly sure how that works.
The inner ability, is that what you were?
Yeah, like some of those with the inner ability, but like I don't know what contributes to like, because I know like attack speed has a cap, right?
Yeah, there's a soft cap and then a hard cap. Yeah.
Yeah, like the cap, like because I'm pretty sure the monster potions don't hit the cap, right? Like that could exceed it.
So the soft cap is at 2. So yeah, the number goes down as your attack speed goes higher, because it's like attack speed reduction kind of is how it works. So the soft cap is at 2, and then you need a source to that allows you to break the soft cap to be able to get to the hard cap of 0. And the Monster Park Green Pod is the most accessible source that does that. Yeah. There's some skills in the game that do it, and then Runes of Destruction and Runes of Haste also do it. You might have grabbed one of those runes one time and noticed that you were just like flying through the map and attacking at breakneck speed. Yeah, so those do that as well. But the Green Pod also allows you to break the soft cap into the hard cap. Yeah.
Okay. So regarding the V matrix, so would you like, at least for where I'm at, would you recommend like because as like you see what are the slots are like low levels, like there's like a level 1 and like a level 2 of this, like you'd recommend I'd put in like some of the skill based ones, like you said, like the attack speed one and then like the crit one. I should just replace them for now.
Yeah, I'm trying to read like what all the skills are, because I can see some skills are in there like 3 times and some are only one time,
like
right?
Cleave and Bloom I think are in there 3 times. Yeah, those are like the only 2 that are 3 times.
Isn't actually it's Cleave, isn't it the other skill? The oh god, I went over these yesterday on my Adele.
Cleave is the basic attack, Bloom's like the making all the swords thin.
Yeah, isn't the one that shows you like the 6-pronged alien type octopus thing, isn't that one in there 3 times? Because it looks like it's your
no, I could just check in my game right now.
Yeah, like the level 5 you have on the bottom right. I think that the skill on the top.
No, I only have. Oh wait.
I think that one is the same,
yeah,
right?
that's from 3 times. Shit, you're right.
Yeah, so Cleave is in there twice. Bloom is in there 3 times. That skill is in there. Oh no, Cleave is also in there 3 times. On the bottom left, on the top there,
yeah.
That's Cleave as well.
Yeah.
So it's like Destruction is in there once, and then
I don't have Dispatch at all, which is
and you don't have Dispatch. That's it. Yeah. Okay, so you're missing 2 Dispatch and 1 Destruction in favor of 1 Cleave, one of those passives, and 1 of Bloom.
Like I have nodes with those skills, but like I said, I didn't work too hard to try and like optimize her, and I could probably like switch a couple things. Like if I really wanted to, I could spend like 5-10 minutes like doing it. But I guess like just general purpose, like for now, should I just replace some of them like for the skills? You said?
So I think what you'd want is so like, even though you have combinations of all of the skills that you want to have eventually, the combinations are like all jumbled up. So you definitely want to streamline which nodes you have. I think what most people do is go for like Destruction, Cleave, and what is that skill called? The passive that's not Dispatch, but the other one.
Aether Forge?
Yeah, Aether Forge, yeah. So Aether Forge, Destruction, and Cleave, to try to get those 3 together on 2 boost nodes. And focus on leveling those 2 and equipping them in high level slots now. And then switch the other 2 ones out for now if you can with... So So if you have one that starts with destruction, because that one you already have level 5, when it starts with destruction, it also has cleave and forge in any order, and then use this one to level that one up instead, and switch them out, and put this one into, and then put the result into a high level slot, and unequip what you have like the level 1 now, and definitely replace that one with. I would introduce decent speed infusion and decent sharp eyes, specifically because your crit rate is that low.
Okay. Wait. So are you saying to like when you say to swap them out, like you're just saying like, oh wait, swap them, because I thought you said like to like feed one of them in, or am I unless I'm like.
Yeah, so if you level up a node, you can still use it to level up another boost node instead. It could just become a source node into another target node, as long as they have the same top skill, right? So if you find one that starts with destruction, but it also has the 2 other ones you want in a different order, you can just use your level 5 to level up the other one, and all of the experience will just transfer over.
Oh, all of it does? Like it doesn't.
Yeah, the only time when you lose
cool.
is if you have to disassemble it and get shards for it. Then you lose a lot of the efficiency. But if you use it as a... In the past, there was like a penalty there as well, but they've like made it a lot more noob friendly in the Matrix for people who like quote unquote make mistakes or just commit to the things that they want to switch over later. It's way more forgiving now, that system. Yeah, it just transfers all the experience over.
All right, cool. Okay, that's actually really good.
Yeah, so ideally you find all other trinodes that have the same top skills as the 4 that you already have. Or I guess in the case of the balloon one, it doesn't really matter because that one's just level 1. So that, you know, hopefully you can just transfer all the experience over and there's like no harm, no foul, basically.
Sure. Okay.
And you have a decent chance of finding all of your trinodes, I would say, on Adele. There's not too many skills that you don't want. There's like the spear, and then there's like the green thing.
All the basic attacks for like the prior job like are all like can all be like jumbled into.
Oh yeah, and there's like that little swipe in the beginning, right? I think there's 3 skills that you like don't want at all, but then there's 6 that you want.
Like 4 or 5.
Oh, 4 or 5.
It's
okay.
like it doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah.
Like,
No, there's some classes where just every single thing is a trinode, right? Like if you're if you're a pathfinder or something, every single skill is already a trinode, and it's all about just mix and matching them. And then there's like Hayato, where there's like 2 trinodes and 18 shit nodes, where it's a literal nightmare. It's pretty hit or miss.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Comparing those to Adele is probably still above average easy on getting your stuff done. Yeah. So relining those. Of course, this might take a little bit of time because you probably have to open some nodes. Hopefully, in that time you get a decent sharp eyes, but definitely the speed infusion will just help you with more attack. That'll help you a lot. And I don't know how useful this early on, the third. I guess I don't know if it's the third one, but like the wings for Adele, does it like pulsate and send out damage or something? I don't even know how the skill works
exactly. It sends out damage, but it also gives you a buff. So hold on, let me read the buff.
Okay, so it's like similar to the...
It's 17% damage, and it increases your Aether gain, and it increases how many swords you have.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
the buff is pretty valuable, I think.
Yeah. No, that is pretty good. It seems like it's mainly going to be a bossing thing, though, but it seems pretty good, yeah. So you could opt to switch that out during mobbing, for example.
Mobbing, yep.
Yeah. You could choose that and maybe like use one extra boost node, right? Maybe like just level 2 or level 3 boost node that does have like 2 out of 3 maybe that you want to use. Or that has one of these temporary ones right now. If it's just level 3 in a level 5 slot, that's level 8, that's 16% final damage. That'll just help you with mobbing more. And then with bossing, maybe you need the utility more of the skill to make sure that your burst goes up with... I don't know what that skill is called. It's like Infinity Blades or something. Yeah, and then maybe making Ruin stronger when you use it, because that skill is ridiculously OP.
Ridiculous.
All of those lines are insane. Yeah. But definitely like final damage to be gained here for sure. So go through your nodes, see if there's any that you might have missed out that are actually like trinodes in a different composition. And when you open,
a couple of them. I'd have to do that. Yep.
Yeah. So if you have one that starts with destruction. That has like cleave and is it like rend? What is the other one called?
Which one?
That sends out the swords basically.
What's it called? Hunting Decree?
Hunting Decree, that's the one. Decree, yeah. If you have like Hunting Decree, cleave and destruction, that'd be like really nice. Or cleave, destruction, and other. That would be like a good switch for this one that you have right now.
Yeah.
Because Bloom is nice, but that's not like a priority because you've probably tried to use Bloom before and then like, oh, I actually hit nothing this time because they're just wherever they want to be. Like the combination of drawing them to you and then Bloom, sometimes, there's a little bit of a mismatch. They just walk out of the of where you want it to be, and it's like, well, sometimes it's beautiful and it's perfect and they're like right all on top of each other and it's amazing. But most of the time it's not very amazing. So since it's more like of a hit or miss skill, it's more definitely one that you don't want to prioritize in the main stuff. Whereas Destruction is really good. You just put it on a boss. As long as they don't move slowly or don't teleport a lot, they're just in it the whole time. And it definitely does a lot of extra damage.
Regarding the Bloom though, I could probably because with the Adele like patch or nerf, whatever you want to call it, like I think they make it easier to do like the combos with it, like because the swords, like when you gather them all together, stay there for longer.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a future like endeavor. Like that's
you definitely want Bloom in there, right? That's definitely still one of the 6 skills that you want. But not having a dedicated I'm leveling this up boost node right now with Bloom in it would probably be more beneficial, so you can just concentrate more on the other skills that are already generating that dedicated damage that you can confirm more easily.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And as for like leveling up your enhanced, just level up 1 slot at a time and focus on boost nodes first in there and then skill nodes after, basically, and then decent skills last, most likely. The only one that really is nice when it levels up is Decent Holy Symbol. All the other ones just the cooldown goes down.
The duration.
Or the duration. Yeah, the duration goes up so that you have a little bit more overlap and a little bit more freedom on when to use them. I think Rope Lift gives you some stat when it levels, but like extra drop rate and experience from Decent Holy Symbol is like the only really useful one, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more quick thing about this though. Like I noticed that in the Rise shop you could buy nodes and stuff. Would you recommend using my like resources
to buy what?
Buy the nodes, because I'm not sure like how to efficiently like use those like coins. Because I remember like on some guides.
Well, that was in phase 1, right? You can't buy them anymore.
Oh wait, are they gone now?
Yeah, that's so this time we have a shop that's in 3 phases, and then every 4 weeks the items in the shop completely change. And that was in the first phase, and we're in the second phase already, so problem solved. But typically in the beginning, if you're still starving for nodes, that's probably a very valuable source for nodes, yeah.
Okay. And what's the distinction between like the green nodes and like the other ones?
Oh, the green ones could just be used on anything and give the same experience as 3 nodes would. So if you're specifically trying to level up a node and you just don't want to have to craft it, sometimes people save it for the will skill at level after level 235 because
the one that summons the webs.
Because the only way you can level that up is with the red nodes that drop from Hard Will himself, so you're limited to 1 per week. Some people use it for that. If you can even run the Hard Will and you have to clear it and you have to survive, it's so quite an ordeal. And then, or people use it way in the beginning on their boost nodes just to get a lot of extra experience, or on their skill nodes to level up skill nodes that are important to level, ones that go up in duration or utility rather than just in percentage damage, for example. It's like if you let's say your Ruin goes higher percentage damage, you don't want to level that, right? Because it's like destroying everything. But if everything else is already maxed, then you want to level it just to hit a little bit harder on a boss, for example. So some will just have more value. Let's say that the cooldown for Rune would go down if you leveled it. Well, then you would level it up, right? Because then you could just spam that shit. And imagine maybe that would be a good thing for Rune. I don't know, to have like be 1 minute cooldown, and then if you level it, go down to 30 seconds to where it is now.
That sounds ridiculous.
But now it's at wait, is it at 1 minute now? Okay, wait, I meant 2 minutes.
1 minute base.
Okay, sorry, I meant 2 minutes and then go down to 1 minute when you max it. Okay, to balance it out a little bit.
To balance it, yeah, maybe.
Because I don't think that would be bad at all to give it like half the uptime that it has now. Because it's I don't know, it's so much damage. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. It is 5th job though, and 5th job is gets pretty nuts.
Because you mentioned like,
No, go for it.
I was just like, you mentioned the utility. Like none of these skills that like really have that utility. Like I guess with Bloom, like I guess when you level it up, you get like extra targets hit, or like some of the skills have extra target hit when you level them up. But like most of these are just like raw damage. So,
for boost nodes that's normal, and then the IED is usually the utility at level 40. That's when that comes in. But for the skill nodes, some skills have like higher uptimes and stuff. or give you bigger percentages. Like your wings are probably going to give you a higher percentage damage, I think, when you level it up. I think
yeah, I believe so.
I think that buff is going to get bigger.
Yeah, because it's at 17 right now, and it's level 2, and 17 seems like a really weird like number to start. I can always look it up.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, I think my arc one, when it's max, gives me like 31 or something. Yeah, like when you see those odd numbers, it's probably because it's being leveled. So one thing I would usually do is just like Google my skills and just see what the data is on the skills. Yeah, and then to kind of prioritize which one do I want to level. Because maybe, for example, maybe putting your in this situation, maybe putting the wing skill in the leveled up slot instead when you're bossing might actually give you more damage than the way it's set up now, for example.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't only increase the damage on that skill, but then on all the other ones skills you're using as well, so you give a bigger buff to rune as well and to your attacking skills, for example. Yeah. But yeah, way more flexibility, right? Way more complex than your first 4 jobs where you just roll points in, you just click,
leveling up,
max everything. Yeah. Like, oh, it looks like I have 30 skill points again. Max a new skill, throw some books at it. Way more complex and way more nuanced.
Oh no, hyper skills.
Yeah, oh no. I wonder what I'm gonna do with my active hyper skills. I have 3 skill points. Where would I put them? Yeah. Wait. So okay, you've been bossing more. Have you been having any trouble hitting your bind?
Hitting my bind? Like. What do you mean? Like, if I'm close enough, it's usually
like I'll be right on top of the boss. It'll be targetable. I'll press the skill. She's like, I won't miss, and then she fucking misses the bind, and then just like nothing happens.
I think that happened to me one time when I was struggle running Vellum, but that's it.
Like a little bit too far away, or?
No. I think I had the problem where like I was on top of it because like Vellum's bad as shit. And, I was on top of it and it didn't work, but that was only once. So
okay.
I'm not sure if it's like a consistent thing.
Well, I have my links on my. Well, we all have that problem sometimes. Okay, it's normal. No, but I hit like one. I hit one bind out of my last 4, and I've been getting a little bit frustrated. But I have my links on my Adele now, so I'm just gonna like try to meme around and struggle, like CRA a little bit just to see, just kind of like the limit test, see how far I am with that character. Okay. But yeah, one of the things is like, well, every character has their own nuances, right? Maybe I have to be way closer for the bind than I initially think. Maybe other classes just have a bigger range, and I'm like not used to that. There's figuring out those nuances of the different classes though is really fun for me. So even though it's frustrating and I might like start tilting, but like in the end I make progress. So that's like what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, I got you.
Adele has a big range. Yeah, then I really don't know what happened because like 3 times I bound the boss when they were like, I think within range right in front of me, and then she says the thing, and then just nothing gets bound, nothing happens, and the boss just walks around like nothing is going on, and it's just frustrating because I use the bind and I prepped already 2 bursts, and I use the bind, and then I press the other 2 buttons, and then I notice the boss is still moving, and then all of your burst is gone.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. Oh yeah, inner-ability. Does that all make sense? How to get to a good inner-ability?
Oh, the whole I have like no clue how the what's that item you use to like lock in your
miracle circulators?
Yeah, I have no clue how those work.
So a miracle circulator re-rolls your inner ability with a high chance of tearing up, 0 chance of tearing down, and all of the numbers it gives you are the highest possible numbers within the tiers that it rolls. So let's say that it rolls legendary tier for 1, unique tier for 2, and epic tier for 3. Then it rolls a certain stat within, or a certain type of stat within those tiers, and then because it's on a circulator, it's always the highest number within those tiers. So if you check exclamation mark inner ability, I've got like the how-to guide, all of the stats, and then what is the best in slot that you want to aim for. I have those in the command. So, blah, blah, blah. So for example, like let's say you roll, let's say the circulator rolls critical rate, where's critical rate? Oh, here. And it rolls a unique line, then it'll always give you the 20%.
Sure.
But if you roll it manually, it can be any of these numbers. So there's more variance on manual. So if you're trying to min-max how you do your inner ability, that's why you follow the guide the way that I put it, because then you can guarantee that your unique line is exactly how you want it. And then typically you roll your top line afterwards by locking in your unique line and your tier, and that because most of the top lines have lower variance, so it's like attack speed +1 is just attack speed +1. Like there's no attack speed plus 0.6 or something.
0.5,
yeah, there's no variance. So if you hit it, you hit it. Or if you hit there's a bunch of other ones, right? Like passive skills +1, or there's a bunch more that don't have variants. So that's why that makes more sense to do it that way. Yeah, so circulators usually come into play to hit that unique line on second or third. That's very important. So for a lot of mages and stuff, it's usually like the 38% buff duration. That's very important. For characters who lack critical rate, it's usually the 20% crit rate. That's very hard to get. That's the most important to hit with your circulator. And then after you hit that, basically you just use all your saved up honor experience. You wait until 50% off, and then you lock that line and keep rolling until you get what you want or something very useful on your top line. And then your third line is basically just a Hail Mary at any other event.
Yeah.
Like if you can get anything useful there, it would be nice, but you just don't really count on it.
Yeah, it's a priority.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also black circulators. So just a PSA for you and for everyone in the chat. So black circulators do not have the option to save your prior inner ability, unlike the regular ones do. It basically works like a chaos scroll for all the individual lines. So it stays the same tier, like I just showed, right, with the inner ability, but it rolls to a random other number within the same tier for every single line you have, with no chance of saving your prior one, and it's very expensive. So it's only advisable if you have, let's say you have a top line that's attack speed +1, that won't be rerolled. Let's say you have critical rate in the tier that you want it, but it's a low number within the tier, and the other thing is just like a random stat that you don't care about. That way you could use the circulators to try to hit like attack speed +1 and let's say 15% crit. Let's say you got that somehow by getting there a different way than we just talked about. You can roll a circulator to maybe get lucky, and you could get 15 back, but there's a high chance that you improve and get like 18, 19, maybe even 20, and then they have value. But there's very few situations where they actually have value, and they're very expensive. So make sure that you tread very carefully with those.
Okay.
Oh, Chaos Scroll is an item from a non-reboot where basically you use it on an item and it could make your stats go either up or down. And it was very hit or miss. If it hit properly, it would be very, very good back in the day. And if it was, if it hit negative, your item would just become useless and you just move on to the next one basically. But it was very high risk, high reward kind of thing. Okay, we went through this. Transfer hammering and transposing. Does that all make sense to you?
The transposing I think is like pretty simple, but the transfer hammer thing, like I know that like people like people use it to like high star force their gear, right? To like save like their like main gear, and then like they have like a dupe of it, and like that's what the transfer hammer is used for, right?
Yeah, it would depend on if you have backups. It's mostly used to either preserve previous investments or to save on getting high star items in the end by making it so that you don't have to overcommit on items that are harder to replace, basically.
Okay. And like tangentially related to that, I was gonna ask, like, because I heard one of my friends talking. It's like, because I know when you like use a transfer hammer, you end up like your potential gets like set to epic or whatever, and you have to like repotential all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious, like whether like it's a better investment to like star force, like try to get the gear to like a higher star force, or like potentially get some legendary, or like if I shouldn't be considering this where I am.
Yeah, so it'll be an item by item basis, but that basically depends on what the upgrade line for that one type of equip is. So some equips just stay with you for a very long time, and it'll be worth like potentialing and even star forcing on it and just getting backups for it, and that'll make more sense. For other items, it would make more sense to go through the path of maybe getting it to unique, maybe to legendary, but sometimes you will need like the game is kind of centered around, let's say you get your Abzo. It makes a lot of sense if you have Abzo stuff to get it to like a legendary with like decent potential, and to get it to 17 stars to be able to kill the content around your character, to be able to get to the point where you can have enough money and kill strong enough bosses to be able to move past that.
Sure.
it's there's always like a balance between, okay, well, you can just skip Fafnir because there's Absolab, but you can also just skip Absolab because there's Arcane, right? But what if you just skip Arcane and get the Genesis weapon immediately? Well, you kind of need some of these steps in between, otherwise you're never going to get there, right? That's like an extreme example, but it kind of works like that with everything. But sometimes you can have some items that give you a huge boost that can kind of like pick up the slack of some other stuff, and sometimes you can just neglect some slots that are not super important. Like early on, for example, your cape, your shoe, and your glove don't tend to do all that much. So if you make sure that you're completely in like other stuff is Abzo, your accessories are maybe really strong, your secondary, your emblem, and your weapon are solid, maybe then you can just kind of ignore whatever you're doing with your weapon, your shield, your weapon, your shoe, and your cape. Your glove, your shoe, and your cape. And then when you go into Abzo, you can make like a huge upgrade there if you want to. It'll depend on your income, it'll depend on what kind of funds you have access to. But it can also depend on like, do you really need the damage? I'm a very big proponent of not upgrading because you can, but upgrading because it's necessary. Because if you upgrade when you can, there's nothing stopping you from always dumping all of your money into something, because you can always upgrade, right? Like, so I think that, it's a balance,
I was gonna say, like, I think the main reason why, like, I'm curious about this now, just because, like, I know it's like it's a pipe dream, but like maybe this upcoming DMT will actually, like, work. So, I was just curious, like, if I should like just try to like get all my stuff, or like not all my stuff, but some of the important stuff from Legendary first, or like.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. You know if they're doing the packs again, like at least.
I don't know. Well, actually, today is Wednesday, so there should be a cash up release, right? For July 15th, 6 hours ago. Well, let's have a look. Control F, cube. Nope, it's not in there.
Okay.
Cool, no cube. See, that was quick. Now we know. I expected it there not to be, but yeah, because they know that some people are still holding onto their cubes, so it would be like unfair to people who still have that, and it'll be like a disconnection between people who hung onto them and people who didn't. So, yeah. And it's next on. But we can specifically get into the gear. And
real quick though, actually, like I actually did have a question about that. So like, off rip, like, because you see, like, the only like Sweetwater piece I have is the monocle. If you scroll all the way down, I have like 370 something dinars, like just saved up. Like, I'm not sure like the most effective way to go about that. Like off rip, like are they like at the point I am in the game right now? Are they better than using like the like boss accessory equivalent? Because like I know I can transpose to like get the boss flame or whatever like onto it, but I'm not sure if that's like if I need to do that right now, or like for example like the monocle I have right now, like if that's currently just like fine where
so benefit for the monocle is it's a higher tier of potential, comes as comes as epic, but it's also level 160, so higher percentages, and it has a brighter future when it comes to star forcing, all of that. And then the benefit of the boss accessory is higher flames and set bonuses, and quicker to access and all that stuff. So that's like what you're weighing against each other. Typically, can I zoom in on this? Yeah. Typically, you move into like a monocle and tattoo. So yeah, monocle can be transposed into, tattoo can't be. Has nothing to transpose into.
The
monocle does. So, but this is the Papulatus mark, which is very rare.
The pap mark, yeah.
The tattoo has nothing to transpose into it. So, there's just no accessory that we have access to that can benefit that. You already have both epic. Typically, I just invest into the accessory set that makes the most sense for me in the beginning. Even up to legendary with like Meso drop and Meso obtain. Item drop, Meso obtain. Because of what we talked before, right? I also have a Kanna on the second laptop. I want to spend most of my time playing my actual character and make money and get drops on the character while I'm training it. And because I'm dedicating directly into the character, I don't have a lot of funds that go into like a separate farming character. So because I can dedicate that, eventually you just go for a double set. You have the accessories. You can just have the boss accessory set that is legendary, gives you drop and Meso, and then once you are at the point where you're like star forcing things past 15 and everything, That's when a monocle and a tattoo really start coming up, because they're only able to go to 15 and beyond. Like the Sakum accessories can't even do that. And when they do, they get a lot of weapon and magic attack, and then the higher tier of potential. At that point, you're also going to be more looking at unique and legendary tier, and that's when that starts really making a big difference compared to the boss accessories.
Can you do like the transfer hammer memes, like with the Star Force stuff, like with the Sweetwater gear?
With Sweetwater gear, you could. It's 160, so you need an item that's at least 150. Is there eye accessories?
Yeah, is that even plausible, like easily accessible item?
Don't think so. No, I don't think there's anything.
I'm just gonna have to risk breaking it every time.
Well, so that's why you would do a lot of voyages and get a lot of dineros, so you have backups for that.
Yeah, for backup. Yep.
Yeah, because the boom chance aren't terribly high, but it is there, so you do need backup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every now and then there are no boom rooms, but those are pretty rare. Those are like once every 1 or 2 years, where you could be like going up to 15 without a chance of booming. But that's a pretty rare event. You do definitely want to plan around that if that's like announced in KMS, because then you know it's 6 months later it's coming for us, so you can plan around it. But yeah. Typically, that's pretty rare. So most of the time, yeah, you're going to be risking. Same with your CRA, right? You just keep doing CRA every week to build up a bunch of tickets. For these items, you're going to risk it because it's easy to replace. Other items, harder to replace, you don't want to risk it, or you want to go around Transfer Hammer instead to avoid that problem.
Yeah.
But then you're going to risk blowing up on those items, so then you need backups for those items.
Okay.
So like a bunch of unranged Sakum Capes, for example, if you want to Transfer Hammer into Abzo. Enough coins from Magnus and enough coins from Root Abyss, so you can buy the Ancient Root gloves, Ancient Root shoes, so you can have backups there in case those blow up. But that's mainly when you're going like past 17, right? You're going to try to go like brute force to 20 or 21. Typically up to 17 you can safeguard. Some people would like safeguard on Monocle and Tattoo. Some people go into Monocle and Tattoo like very quickly. When they don't have enough dineros for backups and everything, but they do have a farming character that makes them a lot more money, so then they guarantee themselves the 17 stars in that way. It's like a different approach to the game, basically.
Gotcha.
You can you either brute force it with time and backups, or with time and Meso, basically. Is like the different different way. Different ways require the different approaches,
Yeah. Only the strategic way. There's a lot of brute force in it.
Yeah, it is because of the RNG. Like you have to, you have to play around. Yeah, you have to play with it. Like you can't really get around it. No, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So with all that being said, what's definitely most important is your weapon, your secondary, and your emblem. Right, that's where a lot of your damage comes from. You already have those at legendary, so you have some of the priorities straight. That's good.
Yeah.
So you got a line of a prime line of attack and 2 line of strength here, attack, stat, and damage here, and then your weapon. So these are still the temporary.
Sorry, what's up?
You guys gotta check if you have like some permanent. So your CRA is permanent except for your weapon, right?
Yeah, except for my weapon, and I got the weapon to legendary, but it only took me like 6. I think it's
okay. Yeah, you didn't like overcommit like crazy. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So have you cleared? You haven't cleared C-Val yet, right? Because of the IED stuff.
No, I've been getting carried. I have 12 thingies for it. So
okay.
I reset. I'm gonna get it.
Because I thought you said you wanted to earn it yourself. Okay.
No. I meant I want for my own self-satisfaction. I want to clear the boss.
Okay.
I'm okay getting carried from here. Yeah. I'm perfectly fine.
One thing I guess that's then not that important anymore right now on the current weapon, but like in general, like the flame on your weapon is very important. That's where a lot of damage comes from, and this one just has magic damage. If that would be weapon attack, that would be a huge difference for you.
That would have been crazy, yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially because the damage on the all stat is as well on there, and even a little bit of strength. But yeah, like that's one of the more important things is flames on your weapon, right? Because we haven't really talked about the flame scores and everything yet. Does that kind of make sense to you?
Like I get the general gist of it. Like depending on the flame you use, like you can like roll different like flame scores, but past that I'm not too sure.
Well, so items, yeah, sure. So items have a classification whether they can get good flames or have flame advantage or get boss flames, whatever people call it, or get bad flames, no flame advantage, shitty flames, whatever people call that. That's just the classification that every single individual item has. And then within that advantage or disadvantage they have, the different flames can also roll different tiers, and then those different tiers represent different numbers on different levels of equips. But because everything gets thrown into like one pile, sometimes it's very difficult to see, is this a good flame considering how good or bad the item is, or is this a bad flame, and if it's good or if it's bad, if it's better than this other flame on this other item, or is it worse? It's sometimes difficult to compare. So that's why I came up with I don't know if I came up with it, I think people already used it at that point, but that's why I'm working with a flame score, because I think it's a good way of showing like, okay, this is just the number for this item, and then if you find another item that is also flame advantaged, or like in the same category, right, and around the same level, you can just compare the numbers and you can clearly see, oh, this one is way worse, so I should be flaming this one first, or they're both kind of good and I should be looking at another item to flame, for example. Okay. Because your Meso is a limited resource, and you have three main things, right, between flames, star force, and potential. You have three main ways of distributing that money, so you want to make sure that it goes to the right place at the right time, basically. And flaming doesn't really have like a flaming event or something like that. So typically flaming is something that kind of goes on in the background when you kill more bosses and get more flames from that. And then
you can't like keep old flames, right? Like you can with like black cubes.
Yeah, no, yeah, it always just 100% replaces what you have. Yeah, the only way to do that is with black flames. That I think, are they in the current shop or are they going to be in the next shop?
Upper ride.
Yeah, I think we're going to have one stack of black flames. Well, black flames do that where they, the next shop, where they roll like eternal flames in quality, and you do have the chance of keeping the previous flame. So some people just kind of like YOLO that on a really good weapon already to see if they get like an insane roll or something. But yeah, there's only like 5 attempts and they're really expensive, so that's typically not something people go for until they're already like far into the end game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a wide exception. Usually just full reroll, kind of like a cube, where it's just like a full reroll, and you just pray to RNGesus that something useful comes out. Yep. Flames. Yeah, so those flame scores. So if you check the progression command, I don't know if you've seen that one.
That
has like all of the sources of damage kind of in the game, and where you kind of roughly want to be at different levels.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that now.
Oh, it's in the current shop. Okay, yeah, the black flames are in the current shop, but yeah, they're very expensive.
Progression. Let's have your like stream elements thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, progression milestone. Progression for reboot. Okay, let me take a look. Let's see here.
So yeah, because in the past people would just look at their range and they'd be like, okay, what range do I need to be at what level roughly? Or they compare to other people's range, and then that's like, okay, that kind of determines if I'm strong enough, if I'm stronger than other people, weaker, or if I should be able to kill all the content, basically. That's how it used to work. Yeah. But like I mentioned before, there's a lot of invisible sources of damage, and there's a lot of sources of damage that are even outside of your character in Legion, which makes it way harder to see, like, okay, where should I be spending my time at this point to get stronger, and am I, where I want to be for my character to be able to kill the content around my character, or am I like severely lacking in something? It's very hard to keep track of that. So I've divided the whole game basically into 4 stages. Some people do just 3. I felt like that falls a little bit short. So I have like the early, mid, late, and then the end game. And then within those stages, I basically look at like, okay, like what levels is that roughly? It's not like an exact science, of course. Like how much stat do you have in the beginning of the stage and the end? How much critical rate do you want to work on? Functional damage, IED, yada, 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 etc., etc. So that also incorporates the weapon flame scores is also in there. So what flame score do you want to aim for, depending on how high the level of the item is. The further you go into it, you'll see that there's like a range, right? It goes up to like 95 to 105 in the late game, for example, because you have lower level items and higher level items that are both flame advantaged, but that gets significantly different values because of the level difference. And in the end, that gets even more extreme with 110 to 150, because the 110 is, for example, like a pink holy cup. And then 150 is like an arcane glove, for example, right? It's like a level 200 item. You have a way higher standard there. The main reason that the standard is different because the same tier of roll in your flame represents a higher value number on your outcome if the item is a higher level. So you're basically just keeping in mind like what is a good combination of tiers that is acceptable to get, but also acceptable to get compared to how much all your other upgrades cost, and then as a result, what kind of value roughly equates to that.
Sure.
Yeah, so you'll have like the 55 on one end is like the non-flame advantage items, right? That's when you're like really, really min-maxing, even on the items where like half the rolls you don't even get any stat. And then on the other end is like, okay, where like your tyrant gear, not your tyrant, sorry, your arcane gear, that kind of stuff, or your best in slot, lower level flame advantage items. And then for weapon, the flame tiers for weapon work a little differently because it's a percentage. Every tier is a percentage based on your base weapon or magic attack of your item. So I can't really put any numbers here, could get way too cluttered, right? So I just go for the tiers here.
Yeah.
And then if you check flame, someone from the community also made like a flame calculator, where if you're ever wondering like whatever you roll on an item, if you have a weapon that is flame advantage, that is Absolab, and the base is, I don't know, maybe something is like 204 or something, then you can immediately see, based on your bonus, what tier of the flame that is up here. It'll just like pop up immediately.
Wait, so like when you're typing in base attack, like that's like the base attack on the weapon, and then you write in the. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Or yeah, like let's say you put in 75 here because that's the roll you have. It'll tell you that it's tier 5. Or you can already look up here and be like, let's say you just start flaming and you're like, okay, what kind of number do I want to aim for? I want to have a tier 5 or a tier 6, right? So, okay, I'm looking for 75 and 90. Boom. You're immediately done. Because the alternative is that you look at the guide and then that links you to the full list of all the numbers. And then you go to weapon attack increase, and then you gotta like look at these percentages. And then, or look at this here and be like, okay, where's my number here? And that like makes it a little bit easier to like find out.
Okay.
And if you have like multiple equips and you want to see like, well, do they, which one is better, which one is worse? You can just put in the stats here. Just make sure you mention here, like let's say you're an Adele, so you're a strength user, so that's done. Put in your flame stats that are relevant, and then save it as a. You can like save it as a character here, and then just name it, and then you could just compare everything up to 10 equips, and they could just be like, oh, okay, this one is clearly lower. Okay, I'm flaming this one first. Okay, put in the new flame. In the beginning, when you're kind of getting used to like what is the flame score and how does it work exactly, that can be more useful. And then after a while, you'll just get a better sense of how good everything is, basically.
Okay.
So specifically for your gear right now, we do want that IED. So a lot of that IED is going to have to come from Link Skills and Legion. What most people do is get one line of IED on their Emblem.
Yeah.
Because Emblem doesn't have access to boss damage.
Like in my case, is that one enough?
Even if familiars come back, so if you get all of the IED you could from your member bonus, from your Link skills, you would still need your Legion to be like at least at 3 or 4k with those spots to be able to get enough IED out of your grid bonus from your Legion to be able to justify not having any lines of IED. Because I don't think familiars are going to come back in a sense where somebody who is in like your position is going to be like, oh, I can just get like a 40% IED familiar with like in a reasonable amount of time, like in a week or so, to compensate for that. I think they're going to make it harder than that.
Yeah, and I'd hope it's the former.
Yeah, you'd hope it's a former, but I think it's going to be a bit harder. So I think aiming for a line of IED and then hopefully a line of attack with that. On your emblem for now is going to increase your damage way more, even though like damage and all stat looks like, oh, this is the damage. A line of IED will make your damage go up so much more than those two ever could. Of course, not when you're mobbing, but definitely when you're bossing.
Because I know like on Reboot, like damage is like the damage is like pretty inflated because it normalizes and like you get bonuses or something like that, right?
Yeah, because you level up, you get 1% every 2 levels. Yeah. You still want to stack like boss damage, but like, not as insanely as in non-reboot. Yeah, there is some reduced efficiency for sure, because when you're fighting bosses, your damage and your boss damage just gets thrown into the same pile, and then enters the damage calculation in the same way that it does for normal monsters for just regular damage. Yeah, so there is a reduced efficiency there for sure. That's why IED is such an important source and attack. You're like, yeah, you're just balancing the three. Yeah, like your secondary is okay for now. Eventually, you do want to get like just 2 lines of attack, right? Like 12 and 9 would be a big increase compared to this.
No, so
I'm just gonna... Okay. So you already upgraded that one, or is that one just like waiting for this weekend?
No, I'm still like I'm doing it with a friend. Both like I don't think we're at the point we can solo it, but like we were duoing.
Yeah, running the boss. You mean? Yeah. Okay.
I don't have it yet.
I think you need 15 pieces, right, to be able to make it.
I could check my inventory. Princess Notion. What does it look like? Oh, it's
like a blossom.
Yeah, 15. I only have 3. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get there.
Yep. So you want to have enough for this Saturday, right? To make it.
Yeah. No, definitely not. Well, unless like, can you even get 9 in a run? Like, if I. Is that even possible?
I think with full drop rate, if you loot everything, honestly, I think I've gotten 7 or 8 before. Feels like 9.
Seems like it's pushing it a little bit because I don't have like crazy drop.
Yeah, we don't have the familiars anymore. That was back with familiars. If the guy you're running with has a lot of drop rate, you use your drop coupon, you might get like 7 or 8. But I think it's usually like a 3-week thing. Yeah, when you get like 5 or 6.
Okay. So for this Saturday though, or it's Saturday then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like? What do you think my priority should be like in terms of, because I think I'm gonna get my weapon by then, so I think that's like obviously the first one. Like, do you think I should bother like tearing up to legendary? Like, is my priority to tier up to legendary first, or is it to just like?
Have you used the fake lab item? Have you gotten for the relay? Have you gotten that? Oh, you got the dominator.
I didn't watch your video, but if you saw, like I got the top.
Yeah, you got a dominator. Yeah, I just saw it. Yeah. Yeah.
Is the fake lab better than like what I would have gotten my like?
It basically, so upgrading a weapon is just very expensive. You have high hopes for the potential. Flaming on it can be expensive, but typically isn't that huge of a deal. And just all the star forcing, and you usually have to safeguard it as well, because in the beginning you don't have backups, and that gets very expensive. And it just eliminates 2 of those things. Like the potential is locked, so you don't worry about that. It comes to 17 stars, so you don't worry about that. And you only invest in flames, which is the cheapest of the 3 option. And it starts you off with the Absolab set bonus, so you can start focusing on all the other Abso items instead. In that sense, for a new character, it just has an insane amount of value there. Because it takes like so much cost out of the equation. It allows you to distribute the money that you would go spend there to spend on other things otherwise. Yeah, like if you're close to getting your real CRA weapon, but you can get the fake Abso, not only do you skip the real Fafnir weapon, but you also skip getting your actual Abso for a very long time, and all that money just can be invested in other places. But yeah, it's not endgame, of course.
But yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, but it's a little too late.
Yeah. Yeah, too late for that, but it's whatever. It is possible. It is possible though that. God. Okay. But you saw my video, right? Like, relays do go back to back sometimes during summers and winters. It is possible that there's like another fake Solab, like announced. Like right in a week. So basically,
announced in a week or released in a week?
Like announced with the I don't know when we get the microsite. Like, let's say we get the microsite and they say that there's like another relay before the DMT. That could be an idea to be like, okay, I'll just get the Fake Lab on this guy, focus on all the other stuff first, and not invest this Saturday into your Fafnir weapon, for example. Because you'll have your temporary Fafnir weapon until then, which, again, your temporary Fafnir weapon also has like a lot of it freely invested into it already as well, right? Like, it's already legendary, it's already 12 line. Maybe you can just redo the flame then in the meantime. But aside from that, you just hold on to that until the Fake Lab, focus on all the other stuff instead, getting other stuff to legendary. And then besides that, then afterwards, when all the other Abso is kind of in place, then circle back to the weapon and fix that. that could be like an option, but you'll have to keep an eye on if we get a microsite and if we get like an announcement of what's going to be in the second part of the update. But that is starting the 22nd, so that's like just over a week away.
Okay.
Or the 21st? Wait, hang on. Today's Wednesday, right?
Today is Wednesday. 15.
Oh yeah, the 22nd. Okay, I just forgot how to count. For some reason, I thought 22 minus 15 was 8. My brain is I'm waking up, I swear. Yeah, so so that's like an asterisk upgrade. I would personally, at the rate that you're progressing, and if you're like okay with getting carried and all of that stuff, I think you can just get the actual Abzo weapon while you still have the fake Fafnir, and just kind of bypass investing really heavily into your Fafnir at all. I think that's perfectly viable, and just again like pick up kind of the slack of what you kind of would be losing or could be losing there, and just pick that up with all the other items in the meantime. Make those investments worth more money and start generating more revenue quicker, and then use that extra money that you generated to go right into the Abzo weapon once you get to Lotus and Damien.
Okay. Like a lot of the stuff is placeholders. No, I guess placeholders are because yeah, like
yeah, some things used to be like really like placeholder for like 10 or 20 levels, and then we'd just replace it with reinforced and superior Golics. But that doesn't work like that anymore. Mainly your accessories that you have right now are gonna stick with you probably for like the next 30 to 40 levels until you can really start clearing Helix reliably.
Okay.
And then replace the whole set at once. And until then, and then even if you do replace it, these items will still have value because they'll just become your drop rate and your Meso gear.
Yep.
Especially if you have the Kishin on the second computer, then they'll retain like way more of its value, right? Because you won't be, you won't be doing the farming or something on another character, so you will retain all of that value on this character.
Okay.
But yeah, so
for the sorry, what's up?
Yeah, well, I would say definitely get the line of IED on your emblem. Like for now, that's paramount, and that's gonna stay really good for a long time because you're gonna need that to kind of pick up the slack that your Legion has to pick up on. Not that you're like dropping the ball or anything, but like your Legion just needs time to grow, and until it's at that critical mass where you can start filling up that grid bonus and having all those members in there, and you having your link skills higher, you need IED somewhere. Otherwise, the Rock Snake is not going to fall. Lotus and Damien is going to be just a far cry. And one line is already like probably not enough, but then I think by that time when familiars and everything come back, you'll get some ID there as well. And optimizing some set bonuses might make it so that you can get to killing those things.
Okay. What I was going to ask though was like, so just for like this weekend, so what should my priorities you think be potting up or potting up?
I think it's mainly going to be getting accessories to legendary and trying to get for a line of drop and Meso.
On the accessories?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's where just a lot of their value is that they can make it so that you make more money and get more nodes while you're training. The nodes translate to final damage eventually once you level up your boost nodes, and the money just translates to freedom to upgrade everything you want later.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you're just more like dead set on focusing on your one character and maybe even going to 2PC meta to get your Kanna to or setup I should say to get your Kanna that extra well, I like your IGNs of your other characters, by the way.
Dude, I'm
like
just trying to go
fist
fast.
on
like,
keyboard. Ain't nobody got time for that. I just smashed my hand on my keyboard and like, this is your name now.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you could already see like which characters you might consider playing at some point and which ones you don't. Like that's a pretty clear distinction. Yeah, but accessories, so like the Synergy Ring, the Master Accessory Ring, kind of Treasure Ring, maybe even the Silver Blossom. Like it's not the base stats of accessories doesn't stay important at all. Like in the beginning, it's kind of important to get like those event rings out, right? Because they're just really, really strong. But if you use a Silver Blossom Ring for drop rate, once you have like 30 million range or 28 million range, like everything just dies in one hit. Like it doesn't matter if you're losing 3 attack and maybe 5 all stat on a ring. Like nobody cares, right? So getting that to legendary now, especially like those rings, and then probably your Mechanator, because I don't think you can fuck with your Dominator, right? That one's stuck.
Yeah.
And then just whatever Iron Face you're using now. Because I don't think you're using the What kind of set? Oh yeah, let's see what kind of set bonus you're working with.
I have 7. For boss, I have 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and then 3 Sengoku is what you're using. Yeah. Okay, and then you could switch for 9 and 1. Because you haven't invested into the shoulder yet. But it would kind of depend on how quickly you're planning on getting the... So, like, playing with the option, if you switch the shoulder for the Royal Black Metal shoulder, you switch the belt for either the Pink Bean or the Zakum belt. Because Pink Bean and Zakum have flame advantage, so they could get higher flame stats. And you haven't invested into the shoulder yet, so that's not a big loss there either. And the belt is quote-unquote only epic. Has 6% stat though, but is quote-unquote only epic. They could give you the 9 set bonus, which will give you more boss damage again, and that would overpower the set bonus loss of the Sengoku 3. But the thing you want to take into account there is, well, okay, so does that mean that you are going to be committing to those items? And then what if Absolab shoulder is like really close for you? Like say you do get that fake Zolab weapon, that means that for Damien, if you're going to be clearing that, getting carried, or carrying your own weight, however fast you progress, you'll be able to get the shoulder there quickly. Then you're breaking up the set again immediately already. So to which extent do you want to switch if you're going to be switching really quickly again? Like, what's the long-term benefit there?
How long does it take to like assemble like those like small pieces of
so I think you get 12 items per week, I think, if you do the weeklies on one character.
Like I've done the weeklies for like 3 weeks now. Funny story. Like I got carried through Lotus, but it was my first run, so I inted like kind of, and like on at the last second, like right before right before the boss died.
Yep.
I died on my last life, and then the boss died.
Yep.
So I just lost my life.
Yep, and then you lose your run for the week. You don't get any drops. Yep, beautiful. Or you even have like 4 lives left, but you just die right as the boss died, and you don't run back, and you're not able to hit it when it dies, and then you don't get any drops either. That's also a thing.
Oh, that's how that works?
Yeah. When you die, you're like off the aggro list, and if you're not on the aggro list, you don't get loot.
Oh, that's so
It even happens like all the way into hard will. Like if you're finishing off hard will off bind, and he ends up killing someone, that person just doesn't get any loot for the week. No chance of arcane drops. Yeah, that's how that works. It's a great system. Yeah, it's really, really bad. Yeah, some people could just get snuffed out of... Yeah, if you just get unlucky, you just get snuffed out of weekly drops for like a really high-end boss. It's really tricky. Yeah. But so the accessories... yeah, so you could switch to our Royal Black Metal shoulder and like a Pink Bean or Sakum belt for now, and then if you upgrade the shoulder, just switch back to the Ayame treasure, for example.
Because if I get the Absol shoulder,
yeah,
then I switch back?
Yeah, because then you'd break up your 9 set right to 8 set again, and then the only other option would be to reapply the either like a Chaos Pink Bean mark or a Papulatus mark or Aquatic Eye accessory instead of the monocle to go back to 9 set. What would make more sense is to just switch the belts again and then just go back to the 7 set. Because you'll be at 8, which is nothing, right? You either want to have benefit from 7 or want to go up to 9. You'd never want to be at 8 because it's just lost potential.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah, that kind of non sequitur. Like it's like the total set pieces that we're looking at, but kind of non sequitur for what we were talking about was upgrading our accessories, because those two aren't necessarily, they're like in between armors and accessories, but they can get Meso obtain and drop rate. So since they're not part of that equation, that's like kind of like a side thing, right? So all the things that can get Meso obtain and drop rate is all of your rings, your pendants, eye face, and your earring. Like those 9 item slots, that's where your utility comes from just getting you more drops and getting you more money. And because of the lack of drop rate for missing familiars, it also some of that drop rate is also important to give you more bags to drop, because you don't have like 100% innately guaranteed a bag of money will drop. So it's kind of like with critical rate and critical damage, where critical rate is kind of your drop rate and critical damage is kind of like your Meso obtain, right? You want to make sure that the one is taken care of so that it's 100%, so that the other one can have full efficiency. So in that regard, you probably want to have 8 items that are legendary and then have 1 line at least, or you want to have 8 lines of Meso obtain and drop rate, 5 of Meso, 3 of drop rate. That's like at least the goal. If you can have 4 of drop rate, that would be even better. But you never want to go over 5 of Meso obtain, because only up to 5 are functional on your gear.
Sure.
And since you can't re-roll your Dominator pendant, that still leaves you with 8 accessories around there. So you'd have your earring, your condensed power crystal, your Sweetwater monocle, your Machinator pendant, and your 4 rings. Getting those up to legendary and rolling for at least one of those lines. If you can get a line and a line of strength with it, that would be optimal, because then you wouldn't be losing out on any damage. You'd actually be going up in damage for most of it, right? You know, just the way you look at it, 8 items all have 9% strength on it. That's 72% strength. That's a big difference between just rolling your Mesotane or your drop rate, or having a 72% strength alongside that, right? That, yeah, on one item doesn't make that much of a difference. On 9 or on 8 items, does end up making a big difference. But that's probably and then re-rolling your emblem for that can just be done with red cubes. It doesn't necessarily have to be even done during DMT, right? But I think those are like the biggest upgrades you can make. Specifically, if you're deciding to go the route of getting your Kanna involved in your second computer for the long term.
Sure.
Then besides that, I think there's you're probably just waiting for a 30% off event to get some Star Force up. Mm-hmm. And then slowly working a little bit on flames, but your flames seem like okay. They're like gradually going up. So yeah, depending on the announcement, reflaming your weapon could be very valuable. Even if you lose the damage and the all stat, if you can get a bigger chunk of weapon attack, that could be great. Because if you look at the flame score, you'll see that one attack is roughly worth like 4 stat. So if you can hit 55 attack on your weapon, that's like 220 stat score, right? Which is like 4 other items as flames put together.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what the value of your flame is there on your weapon.
I think I was like really hesitant to like invest more into the weapon, just because like I think it's temporary. But like I guess now that I'm thinking about it,
if it's a 1 month weapon, yeah. If it's like a 30-day weapon or something, I totally agree. But it's a 90-day weapon, right?
90, yeah.
It's a long time. So you definitely get some mileage out of that for sure, yeah.
You're right about that.
I mean, even with all of that in mind, I probably, in your situation, I'd probably still be wearing like the temporary CRA gear as well, and have dumped everything that you already dumped into those, probably already into the accessories as well to try to get them up to legendary. Because, you know, you get that free 12 star, and you get that free epic potential and 3 line, and, you know, you have that for like, probably for like 2.5 more months almost, right? So in that 2.5 months, that money going into the accessories instead, and returning your money back, and then, you know, once a Star Force event comes around or something comes around, then you dump that money into the permanent CRA stuff. That's like long-term wise, that's slightly more optimal. It feels like a detour, right, to invest it into your accessories, but it just, yeah, it ends up making so much more money back in the long term, especially if you're dedicated on your character, especially if you have that secondary Kanna.
Okay.
The IED line and the Emblem is going to do wonders for your damage, especially for C-Vel. Apart from that, C-Vel is just practice, practice, practice. I don't know if you have like specific questions for C-Vel, like things that kill you or things that you're like, what the fuck do I do here?
I think I got the mechanics down pat. It's just sometimes my execution's a little wonky, but that's all just fixed with a little practice.
So I think the extra attack speed from your speed infusion will also help you. It just gives you, like, if you're jump attacking, it makes it so that the attack animation is like completely done before you land, so you have more freedom to jump around immediately when you land. And in general, I think jump attacking has a lot of value in Vellum. A lot of other people always like look weird when I do it, but I think it allows you to like move a little bit while you're also dealing damage in the attack, especially when he's like shooting the fireballs, right? You're shooting fireballs, you're on one side of him, and then you want to make sure that you stay in position a little bit for the tails to pop up, and then you want to like slowly frog leap from one side to the other side without making like huge jumps so that the tails don't spread out, but that the tails overlap instead, right? So there's minimal tail coverage. And I think the best way to do that is by like jump attacking through him, and you have cleave as a perfect weapon to do that as Adele. I don't know, like when he goes back down after the fireballs, that's like a hitbox that will push you to the sides. Be careful for that one. I don't know if that one got you before.
Sorry, so say that one more time.
So if he shoots out the fireballs and there's like the tails afterwards, when he's done shooting and he goes back down on the ground, if you stand too close to him there, he will like push you back to the side.
Oh, and okay.
And that can push you like into a tail. So make sure that when he's done shooting and he's like pause champ in the So like facing aside is like, oh, I'm gonna go back. Then make sure that you create some distance between him and you, so you don't get pushed into, you know, either a rock or a tail, because it's like a silly death kind of. So definitely avoidable.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you'll just be testing the waters between like, when do I have to be safe? When can I commit? And you know, if you're safe too much, you just run out of time. If you commit too much, you might die. So you're just constantly testing the waters, and you're just gonna die to everything like 4 or 5 times before you figure out like, okay, this is definitely a bad idea, or this can be, you know, refined and can be done. You know.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. What else was I gonna say about Seavel? I think I was gonna say one more thing. Oh yeah, the rocks. Please be careful for the rocks.
Yeah. I mean, I've ran it like I've done a lot of practice runs, like just to like get the mechanics.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I like that you're doing that. I thought I was gonna say one more thing about Seavel. Oh, I forgot about it. So probably, but yeah, but with more ID, with more practice, faster attack speed, and re-optimizing your nodes, that's gonna help you a lot. Yeah.
Does that attack speed node have like 100% uptime or?
Yeah. So the decent skills all have 100% uptime by themselves. Leveling only gives you longer duration, so that you can synchronize it better with your burst, for example. So if your Kanna's like calling, oh, burst is in 10 seconds, and you see that your decent skills have like 12 seconds left on it, you'd be like, fuck, right? If you have it at a low level, you're gonna have to like rebuff it during the burst, or your burst is gonna suffer because you can't use it just yet because the overlap is so small. But if you have it at a higher level, you can be like, oh, okay, I'm just repopping those decents right now, and then I'm starting my burst prep, so I know 100% it's up during the entire burst. That's like the added value that it gives you, a little bit more flexibility there.
Okay. All right. Did I have any other tangential questions?
I can go over this list.
Oh yeah, I guess one thing is like, so seeing as like now at right now, like my plan was to like work like a little bit more on my my Legion / Lynx, like do like 1 or 2 more, and I wanted to get to 225 because I wanted the extra symbol.
Yeah.
And then but like now that like the Kanna's all in the pick, like now that I'm gonna make the second account, like I'm not sure how to like manage all these, like, or order them. So like, do you have any like tips on that? Especially seeing where my account is, like, and how like my Legion shit is really low.
Sure. Let's see. Well, so the Terror Burn is like another. It's like one more week, I think. Yeah. So getting the Kanna up there is probably priority number 1 now. But yeah, like I said, if you have a decent amount of hours to play, right? Because you're already like 220 on the Kanna, on the Adele. So
yeah, I'm like right now it's like I could basically just do full time for like.
Yeah. So the Kanna will take you like 1 or 2 days at the most. Like, even if you're just not doing it in one sitting, like not like 8-hour days, but like over 2 days, that should be done. Definitely always, so prioritize your daily, your symbol dailies on your main. Like that's just
I have like paramount. A checklist of dailies. Though.
Yeah,
I'm pretty on top of it. I'd say. I think.
And then once your Kanna's at 200, you can start dragging it through the dailies. That's like very important to start working on the arcane power on the Kanna as well. And then I would just like select one. Like do like Zakum runs on like 3 or 4 mules every day, because that's like a total of like 10 minutes, right? Just to get that quick experience in. Make sure you do Monster Park, like that one's very important. On either on one character on your main to run for the medal, or you could also use it to boost like levels of low level characters, whatever you like better there. And just start one new character for Legion every day and get it to maybe to like level 40 or level 60, but just make some start on one character a day, I would say, and that will just do wonders for your Legion in the long term.
Oh, speaking of that, like, how long should my leveling up something to 120 take me? Because I feel like it's taking me like excessively longer. People like say like takes me like 6 to 7 hours like on a decent character.
Per character?
Yeah, is that normal? Or most people say it only takes like 3 to 5 depending on where you're at.
Well, so are you moving all of your link skills and everything that you have onto the new characters? Yeah, I'm moving
all my links.
And you're using Monster Park potions there as well?
Yeah, it's still taking me this long. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Cause like
it might be the difference of
like guide thing for mules, like I'm following.
It might be the difference of like having double experience coupons or not, and the combination with having Kishin or not, or having totems or not. Other people might be just committing their totems to leveling their characters.
Maybe.
And that might speed it up a lot. Because a lot of people do that in the beginning. They'll just like, okay, I'm going to work on a Legion character now. I'm going to buy a totem and I'm going to rush that. And if you're saving all your totems for your main, that's like a huge difference. The difference between spawn and respawn is incredible. That could already like double the length.
Probably. Oh, yo, sorry, what's up?
That could already double the length of how long it takes you to do it.
Gotcha.
That's why there's so much value in that in that laptop sitting next
Mhm.
to you and the Terra Burn event going on. Yeah.
What I was gonna say though is 'cause, like I caught a little bit of your stream yesterday, like where you were leveling the what was it, the
Ice Lightning.
the mage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like yeah, no, maybe it's just because like you're fucking like pretty progressed and stuff. Like you were doing like the damage you were doing at level 20 was comparative to the damage I was doing at level 100. So like
yeah, that's purely just Legion and Lynx. Yeah, I can hit like 8k crits on a level 2 with basic attacks on Maple Island. Yeah, that's just that's Legion and Link at work. That's what you have to look forward to as well. Yeah, and that just makes every new character you train. Once you hit like 2-3k Legion, your every new character is going to be so much stronger than the old ones. You're basically as strong as like a level 60, 70, 80 at level 10. And you just roll through everything. And that's when, you add Kishin to the mix and maybe more access to Legion coupons and experience coins there. Experience coupons and those bigger potions. And you just, every new character is like, oh, you just go 1 to 140 in like an hour or two. And you're like done. And then you have everything sitting at 140. And then you can be like, okay, they have your 6k Legion built up. And then if you want to, you can make a jump from 6 to 8k Legion, getting that extra 2k. And then it's just a matter of like, doing a few pre-quests here and there, getting some accessories, star forcing, maybe a little bit of cubing, like 300 mil invested, and then just one tap it from 140 to 200, and then you just make your 300 mil back, you dump it into the next character, rinse and repeat. But that's a little bit down the road.
Yeah, no, like the 8k Legion thing seems like really, really long term, at least right now.
Yeah, 8k is a min-maxy thing, but like I said, like every level up after a multiple of 2.5k, so like at 3, 5.5, and at 8, you get to put 5 extra characters in instead of 1, and that's why it's such a huge boost to reach that 8k.
Gotcha.
And that's why nobody goes for 10k, because 10.5k would be the next big boost, but that's just inhuman. So.
Wait, in order to get that high, like how many 250s do you need? Like Jesus Christ.
Well, you would need. It only counts your 40 highest characters, so you need 40 characters at 250.
Oh, really? Jesus.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it only counts so a character can only count for your Legion rank if it's 60 or higher, and it only counts the 40 highest at the most. So you have to have 40 250s. Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, you can't do like 53 characters that are like level 180 something or like 220 something. No, that doesn't work. They all have to be 250. Yeah. And there's a Korean dude who's actually halfway at this point. It's kind of nuts.
And wait, I take it he's like the farthest way there?
Yeah, I think he has like... how much? It's Munchi, right? I think he has like 18 or 19 250s at this point. And this is like without Kishin either, right? This is like without totems and Kishin. It's pretty nuts. Or like 15 or 16. Right. Yeah, it's like almost halfway. It's insane,
Okay.
Sakurix has 20. Sakurix has 20? Really? In GMS? Wow, okay, that's also pretty nutty. Maybe a bit less. Yeah, so some people just like that grind. But when you're grinding it like this, at a certain point, once you have enough nodes, you have enough arcane power, you're just one-shotting. All of the money you make when you're training, it just all flows back into other characters, all flows back into your main. It's a legitimate way of funding your account, honestly. If you like it that way, right? And I think it's a more legit way, not as in if it's breaking any rules or something, but I think a more organic way of doing this than by doing like one dedicated farming character that you're like suiciding over and over, that kind of stuff. Because in the end, you'll just have 6 or 7 characters that you can always, you feel, I don't feel like training today, I don't feel like farming, I just go kill a bunch of, just get like CRA, HMAG, those kind of bosses. That'll just take you like 5 minutes tops total, and you just make 250 mil, and you have like a legion of characters that you can do that on. It just unlocks a lot of possibilities. And then, because of how you play and how much money you have, you either brute forces over time with those backup items that you get from those bosses, or you brute force it with money dedicated from one character. That's like the different approach.
Yeah. The whole funding through multiple characters just seems like really daunting. But maybe it'll be like acclimated eventually, but we'll see.
It'll make way more sense. It makes way more sense for the meta in KMS, but it makes less sense for the meta in GMS because of spawn boosting and because we have Kanna. But in KMS, it makes way more sense because of how quickly you can actually get to killing the bosses and selling the crystals and everything. And comparatively to, because it's from a completely different paradigm, right? It's just taking away Kanna or boost spawn and totems away from the equation just changes the whole ball game.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, I see you're on top of the totems and all that stuff. When you get bored of that, hopefully we have a Dark Lords of Darkness, so you can stop having to do that.
Oh, sorry, say that again?
There's like Dark Lords of Darkness. I don't know if you've heard of this event.
No, I am not.
Okay. Well, I have a video on it, but basically, it allows you to get permanent totems that don't have set bonus. But if you get it's like an RNG box again with like random totems. But if you get the ones for your class, if you get the right ones, you have permanent totems that just replace completely what you have now, and then you don't have to deal with
better?
Yeah, they're better. Like they get up to. Oh god, I think I have some on this character. Yeah, they go up to a 36 stat and 15 weapon and magic attack each. And they're not unique, so you can wear up to 3. So you go up to 108 stat and 45 weapon magic attack.
Oh, okay.
With all of them
That's
combined. If you get the ones that you want, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, typically that's like a Halloween type event, so it comes around in October, November, but then last year they just skipped it, so everyone flipped their shit, and then they released it in February, so it's only been 5 months now, so.
Okay. All right.
We'll see what they do. But yeah, I hope that this was useful for you and cleared a bunch of stuff up.
Really. Yep.
And I'll make sure to keep all my commands up to date so that if there's any questions, you'll get the most up to date information.
Sure.
And yeah, if there's anything else that comes to mind, you can always message me on Discord, or I'll try to help you in chat if there's anything.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Best of luck with everything.
All right. You too. Take it easy, man.
All right. I'll see you. Peace.